I was 27 when I walked into Maya's apartment with a second-hand key and a bag of groceries. It was late, a Thursday, early spring. The radiators were making their usual hissing sounds. I had bought cilantro and the good yogurt because she said mine tasted like adhesive. I remember the cilantro because it fell out of the bag and sprayed across the rug like confetti. The rest is boring and simple. I saw Liam's jacket over the back of her chair, then Liam, then Maya. They didn't stop. He looked over like he'd spotted a neighbor and kept going. She said my name the way you say excuse me on the train. There was a playlist running on her speaker, indie covers of 80s songs, bloodless and breathy. I stood in the archway for maybe 4 breaths. Then I put the groceries on the counter, took the spare key off my ring, and left it next to her ceramic spoon rest. I didn't shout, I didn't perform. I took the stairs down because the elevator was slow and the hallway smelled like bleach. Outside, it was that part of Chicago spring where the air is still mostly winter but tries to be friendly. My phone buzzed again. I turned it off. I walked to the blue line and rode it to the end for no reason other than it was habit to ride things to the end. I watched an older man nap with his head back and his mouth open. He looked unbothered. I envied him like you envy good calves. I met Maya when I was 26, at a neighborhood softball game where no one could hit a curveball and everyone wore mismatched shirts. She was a copywriter. Liam was my best friend from college, the kind of guy who could talk a meter maid into giving him a high five after writing him a ticket. He'd helped me move twice. We had a system for couches. We had a group chat named after the cheap diner where we ordered pie. The next morning, I pinged my boss and said I had food poisoning. I sat on my couch and opened a spreadsheet I use when life goes sideways. It has tabs: money, health, contacts, backups. I moved Maya to a sheet called Archive. I blocked both of them everywhere I could think of, then sent one email to each with the subject line, no contact. It said, I won't be in touch. Please respect that it looked like a form letter. I like that about it. I closed the computer and went on a run I didn't want. It was cold. I felt clumsy. Nothing dramatic happened. My body did what bodies do. It kept moving. Within a week, Liam had his name on Maya's lease. Within a month, our overlapping social life split like a cell undergoing mitosis. People asked me how I felt. I said, fine. It wasn't bravado. Fine is often what you are when the obvious has happened. If you know someone long enough, you can see the slope of their choices years before they put a foot on it. I had seen the slope in little things, their private jokes, their way of standing too close and calling it convenience. I hadn't named it. That's my shortcoming. I threw away the cilantro when I found it in my backpack 3 days later. It had liquefied into a green smear. I cleaned it with dish soap and thought, this at least has a clear solution. A year passed. I bought a different couch and learned to roast chicken. It turned out I was good at replacing things. Mugs, sheets, the routes I took to work. Repetition is underrated. Half of moving on is muscle memory. I still heard about them sometimes because you can't erase all connections without erasing yourself. Their names came through mutual friends the way smells drift through a shared vent. The news sounded like news about a merger at a company you used to work for. You understand the departments, you recognize the acronyms, you don't care. The headline that stuck: they were buying a house, river forest, 3 bedrooms, a yard. They sent a photo to someone, who sent it to someone, who shouldn't have sent it to me but did anyway, with a large apology as if pixels themselves could injure me. Liam was on the lawn holding a key. Maya was in a white sweater. The caption said something about Chapter 2. Houses make people say mystical things about permanence. Personally, I think a house is just an expensive box that owns you back. Still, I did the math automatically. Their incomes, the probable mortgage, the tax bill. I thought about which walls I'd knock down. Then I remembered it wasn't my problem. I closed the message and made coffee. A month later, someone told me they were moving in that weekend. On Friday, I saw Liam on a bike near the West Loop. He lifted a hand and then dropped it, and I pretended I hadn't noticed. On Saturday around 6, my phone lit up with a number I didn't know. I let it ring out. A text arrived. Hey, can we talk? No name. New number. I didn't respond. Another text. It's Maya. I put the phone face down and finished the shelf. On Sunday morning, she wrote again, and this time it was clear. Liam left. I didn't answer. She kept going. He said he's been seeing someone else. She didn't say man, but 2 hours later, a mutual friend did. He left for a guy, the friend whispered, though it wasn't a secret. Apparently, they met at some volunteer thing. There were details I didn't need. A trip to New York, that same word soulmate people use when they're trying to make poor planning sound like fate. I pictured their key, the one for the house they hadn't moved into yet, set on the kitchen island under a realtor packet. I pictured the mortgage document, large and indifferent. In the following weeks, the rumor mill produced what rumor mills always do, a messy paste of facts and guesses. Here's what I know. They didn't move in together. Maya tried to hold the house on her own. The mortgage was too much. She sold some furniture. She took on freelance work at night. She looked tired in a photo that showed up in my feed because an algorithm knows I once knew her. Her caption said something like resilience. Resilience is whatever you call the act of not sinking today. My life flowed peacefully in the interim. I ran into Liam again at a street fair in July. He had a beard now. He was holding the hand of a man with a tattoo of a lighthouse. They looked happy in the regular, unremarkable way that matters. He looked at me like we were both on a boat and had decided not to wave. It was fine. The weather was good. Someone was selling overpriced lemonade with mint in it. I bought some and drank it and went home with sun on my forearms and no feelings that mattered. In September, the friend who tells me things texted me a link to a public notice page. The house was in pre-foreclosure. I deleted the link and then emptied my trash. Not out of cruelty, out of hygiene. The bank took the house in November. I learned this the way people learn anything now, 3 clicks deep into something I hadn't meant to open because a name I knew showed up next to a link I didn't. The listing was clinical. In January, Maya DM'd me from a different account with a different name. I only noticed because the profile photo had the same dog as before. A rescue with one ear that never stood up. Noah, I'm sorry, the message started, which is a thing people say when they're not sure what else will work. Then, can we get coffee? I'd like to explain. Then, I miss you sometimes. That last part was honest in a way that made it easier to decline. Missing someone you wronged when your life went south leaves a bad taste in mouth. If you're waiting for outrage, I don't have any. I did briefly, like a fever, and then it broke. Sometimes people ask if I forgave them. I don't have an exact answer because I didn't try to manufacture one. Forgiveness sounds big and ceremonial. What I did was smaller. I relieved myself of the need to balance any books. The numbers will never be neat. That's fine. I keep my neatness where it does the most good. Closets, spreadsheets, cookware stacked by size. I'll never be the person who says, everything happens for a reason. Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes you lose a house because your down payment locked you into a future you couldn't afford. Sometimes your friend finds the kind of person he wouldn't say out loud in college that he wanted. Sometimes your ex messages you because her mind isn't done with the idea of you. And you are. If Maya wrote tomorrow, I'd still say no. Not because I want to punish her, but because my life is already full of the predictable pleasures I'm good at managing. If Liam wants to grab a beer and talk about the way the Cubs are always rebuilding, I could do that. Maybe in a public place with a game on and no autopsy of the past. It'd be a beer between 2 men who used to know each other and now know themselves better. Or it won't happen. Either way, I'll go to work, take the train, lift the things my trainer tells me to lift, cook the rice, set my alarm and get up.